Story 1. I am a housekeeper at a hotel. Last week they cut our hours from 40 to 32. I was just informed that tomorrow they are shutting down the hotel. The front desk staff, sales team, and bartenders are being laid off for the time being. Housekeeping will now work 24 hours a week for 2 weeks to deep clean the hotel, but I do not know what will happen after that. Story 2. I have not been laid off, but I answer calls for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. We are receiving many calls from people thinking about suicide after being laid off. The virus is causing so much damage, and there are never enough resources. Story 3. I was a bartender. The bars and restaurants were shut down. I was relieved because I was afraid of dealing with so many people and all the glassware. People would have kept coming if the state had not shut us down. Story 4. My experience is unusual. My wife and I live in New Zealand and had planned to move to Toronto on a 2-year working visa. We were supposed to leave in April and had already given our resignations when Canada shut its borders. My boss has already hired my replacement. They shut the borders on my birthday. Story 5. I am the food and beverage manager at a large hotel. The general manager and human resources gave me a list of employees to call to inform them that they would be furloughed. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. I had to stop halfway through the list, to sit in my office and cry. I had to encourage grown men and women that everything would be okay when I had no idea myself if or when it would. I worked my normal 10 hours this morning, and then I was laid off at the end of the day. I cried again on the way home. Story 6. My husband was laid off on Tuesday. He works about 3 minutes down the road from my workplace. He came to my workplace in tears, apologizing for not doing well enough to be kept on. He is an auto technician at a car dealership. They let go of 4 technicians that day because business is decreasing, and they are letting go of more people this Saturday. My brother, who is a mechanic there, is also afraid of losing his job. They told my husband that when business picks up they may call and ask him to come back to work for them. I work in a hospital laboratory, so my job is relatively secure. I keep telling my husband that we will get through it, but I know it is taking a toll on him. Story 7. I worked at a specialty custom cake shop. My bosses were a brother and sister who owned the business. They had been terrified of the coronavirus since it started in January and had been talking about closing ever since. When employees panicked and asked what would happen if they closed, they would just say, "Don't worry about it. We will figure it out." Last week, we received an email giving us 6 days' notice that we would be closed for the following month with partial pay. On the final day before the scheduled closure, they told us we were actually being laid off, that the partial pay would be severance, and that they were unsure when they would reopen. They acted like this was temporary, but they are refusing custom cake orders until August. They also made no promises to rehire us when they reopen because they may not be able to afford it. Story 8. My mom works in vacation rentals doing housekeeping. She is 61, diabetic, and has chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. She lives in a state that has a mandatory shutdown of all non-essential businesses. When she was told they would be laying people off but staying open, she said she was afraid of getting the coronavirus, and they laid her off so she could collect unemployment and continue to pay her bills while staying home and safe. Story 9. The entire construction crew at the site was laid off, and with the way things are going, the company owner thinks it will be at least a year before they consider hiring me back. Work started 3 months ago, and at least 50 other people were affected at this site alone. The company had several other sites where employees were laid off as well. I am lucky that I am still living with my parents, and my father works in online information technology for the general public, so he is busy. Update. Since many people asked, I am in Alberta, Canada. The site I was on was shut down by the owner. Beyond that, I do not know. Thank you to those who offered help or employment. I was surprised by the offers. Story 10. I have not lost my job, but my small software company instituted a 30% pay cut across the board. They say it will be reevaluated every month. Clients keep canceling or postponing projects. I am okay this month, but I could easily lose it next month. I am just happy they decided to cut pay instead of firing 30% of the workforce so everyone can keep their health coverage. Also, I am not sure I would have been included in those layoffs. Story 11. I was hired last week, but I do not think my first workday will happen. Story 12. I was laid off from my 5-year graphic design job at a screen printing and promotional products company. About half of our business involves schools, sports programs, and events. None of those activities are happening, so our business has stagnated. They will try to operate with a skeleton crew for the next couple of months. They hope to bring everyone back eventually, but I am not optimistic. Story 13. If you are in the United Kingdom, the major supermarkets are running a recruitment drive with a fast turnaround to place people in roles. I know this is not a story about losing a job, but I hope this helps someone reading this thread. Story 14. I have always read that 40% of Americans are one paycheck away from poverty, and this virus really puts that into perspective. Stay strong and stay safe out there. Story 15. I just finished my training as a flight attendant for a major European airline. It has been a dream of mine, and I have devoted my energy and care to this training over the past few months. I am in Cancun. It is bittersweet because it is absolutely beautiful, but this was my last training flight. I am now a fully trained flight attendant, yet no one knows when my colleagues and I will receive our work contracts, since the airline industry is suffering right now. I think I will cry when we land back in Frankfurt tonight because I do not know when my next flight will be. I will, however, put on a brave face and a genuine smile for our passengers and do my best. Story 16. I am a classical musician in the United States. Every orchestra has canceled concerts for the next 8 weeks. It is unclear whether any of the concerts will be rescheduled. Many orchestras are waiting to see if the Act of God clause will be applied. If it is, musicians will not be paid. Most summer orchestras are still scheduled, but there is a high chance they will be shut down as well. Story 17. I am a substitute teacher. If you are aware that most schools are closing, if they have not already, that explains why substitute teachers are now effectively unemployed. It is unlikely that schools will resume normal operations during this situation, so thousands of people are out of work because of that. Substitute teachers do not receive a salary, so any employee who is paid hourly or by the day must now scramble. Note, because many people are unsure whether they should apply for unemployment benefits and are in a similar situation, including substitute teachers, hourly employees, or people whose positions were cut due to current circumstances, please apply. You can and should apply for unemployment benefits. It may take some time because of the influx of applications, but that is what the unemployment system is for. I extend my best wishes to everyone and to your friends and family. I hope you stay healthy and hold on to hope. Be smart and be safe. Story 18. I received a call congratulating me on getting a job 2 days before a hiring freeze went into effect at the university I applied to. I never saw my contract and I do not have any work. Thank you for the gold. I wish it had been on a cheerier post. We are in this together and we will get through it one step at a time. Look after one another. Be considerate and kind to yourselves. I hope this blows over sooner rather than later. Story 19. Not me, but my wife was told basically that they would call her if they needed her, and they do not really need anyone, to be honest. She has not worked a minute since the 13th. My sister was a bartender at an arcade, so she is in a difficult situation. She was laid off with the promise of reinstatement when they reopen. Story 20. I am a manager at a movie theater. I already saw it coming, so it was not that shocking to hear. We were only seeing about 200 people on weekdays, down from our average of 900. I was called in by the general manager and told that we were closing indefinitely. It looks like 6 to 12 weeks. I am fortunate to have money saved, so it is not a major issue for me, but it upset me to know that many of the employees have no other source of income and scrape by on their paychecks. Fingers crossed it is 6 weeks, maybe less. Story 21. I was laid off indefinitely from 2 different hourly paying line cooking jobs on Monday, approximately 50 hours combined per week. I helped clean out one of the restaurants on Wednesday. We discarded a lot of items. I helped clean out all of the coolers and throw away a large amount of prepared food that employees did not or could not take home. Employees were encouraged to take what they wanted: produce, dairy, meat, and so on. The place is almost completely empty. It is surreal. My spouse was laid off indefinitely on Wednesday. She manages a restaurant and is salaried with benefits, approximately 50 hours per week. She was told that management will not be paid until the place reopens. Our family currently has no work or income. We have a young child. These are very uncertain times. Update: we are healthy and staying positive. We have extra time to spend with our child. We have food, water, and other saved resources. We are exploring unemployment insurance and a few other options. Thank you for the support. This could be the same story for millions right now. Take care of your family and neighbors. Try to spend and shop locally. We will get through this together. Story 22. I just lost my job about an hour ago. I am a restaurant manager and they called me and told me to turn in my keys by the end of the day. I am in quarantine and cannot. They are sending me a United Parcel Service box so I can send my keys and told me to file for unemployment. I never expected this to happen to me. I am in shock. I don't know what I am going to do. Hey, thanks for the well wishes and advice. I live in New Jersey and I already filed last night. Everyone else in my situation, please read these comments. On top of being really sick, it was a kick to the stomach, but we will get through it. Story 23. My job as a barista was shut down for safety because nobody is coming in. My summer job teaching children how to swim at a sleepaway camp was canceled because the camp decided not to open. While I am not in danger of losing my house or starving, I am now unable to afford to continue attending college next semester. Someone gave me Reddit Gold. I do not know what that means because I am new to Reddit, but I hope the person who gave it and all of you are safe and healthy. Story 24. I got laid off today. I worked in an art studio. There were only a few of us, and my boss owned the business. Because it is a small business, she could not afford to keep me employed anymore. The business just stopped. Normally we would have 10 or more orders a day. Today we had one. Sucks, but I understand completely, and she is the kindest boss. I live in the United Kingdom, and although the government is promising loans for small businesses, that help is unlikely to arrive in time. I really hope her business gets through the next few months. It is going to be a difficult few months for a lot of us. I am lucky I have some savings and still live at home, so it could be much worse. Story 25. I am sitting in a meeting right now waiting to be fired. The vice president is running late, so that's cool. They gave us basic information but are speaking with everyone individually, so who knows? I was laid off. Story 26. I am screwed. I'm American but live in northern Italy. I worked for the last 5 years at a tech startup that relied heavily on renting apartments and travelers in Europe for revenue. My role was entirely back-end. I was part of the first wave of employees and really liked my job. We were funded mostly by Silicon Valley investors. The company had already decided our jobs would be automated slowly, and I had started looking for a new job, but the process sped up because of the crisis and we were all laid off on Monday. My husband is a taxi driver and he hasn't worked in almost 3 weeks. We don't know when he'll be able to work again. I don't know when I'll be able to get another job interview. We have a 3-month emergency fund that I built up and no credit card debt, but I'm terrified for the future. We're both in our 30s and got screwed in 2008 when we graduated into that recession. Now I'm worried I'll never own a home or have children. I don't know how any of that will be possible. I feel hopeless. I'm going to fight my way out of this whichever way I can, but I'm honestly feeling defeated. I'm also scared we're going to get sick, or that one of our family members here in Italy will get sick, or that one of my family members in the United States will get sick and I'll be unable to fly back to be there. Today, Italy reported an increase of around 4,450 cases and 427 more deaths. I feel selfish for worrying about my finances in the face of this tragedy, but I'm terrified about what comes next. I also have no idea how I'm going to pay my student loan going forward. It feels like it's strangling me. If you got laid off this week, I'm with you. I literally just feel like giving up. Thanks for reading. I needed to vent. Stay well and stay healthy. From us in Italy to wherever you are in the world. I've seen so many comments and I'm even more nervous now. I'm devastated to see how many other people are in the same situation. It may be hard times, but at least they're gilded hard times. Thanks for my first gold. and thanks to everyone who reached out with kind words. You are the best. Story 27. I am a server. I have not worked since the 14th, and I was officially laid off on the 18th. Where I am, a temporary layoff lasts only 60 days. If we are not back by then, we lose our jobs permanently. Could not have come at a worse time, because we have new management and there have been rumors about bringing in new staff. I was about to lose my apartment, unrelated to work, but my landlord called to say I can stay and not to worry about April rent. He also gave me $150 for groceries. He is a good person. I am trying to get through to employment insurance, which is only available online, but the site keeps crashing, so I am unable to submit a claim. Story 28. I was a server looking for a new job before this all began. I had secured a position at the zoo, an amazing dream job and a great fit for my personality, but the day before I started they shut it down due to concerns about the coronavirus. Then they closed my serving job as well. Story 29. I worked at Hyatt. I was hired as an intern fresh out of college for 1 year. Most of Hyatt's interns were internationals from Europe. Hyatt paid us minimum wage, which is difficult given how expensive New York City is. 2 months ago, they hired a man from the Netherlands, and 2 weeks ago, a woman from the Netherlands moved to New York City for the internship and moved into her apartment last week. 2 days ago, the Human Resources Department called us for a meeting and said that, effective Monday, we were no longer employed by Hyatt. They refused to pay us for our accrued sick or personal days. I had 7 days. For the interns who recently moved to New York City, Human Resources said we were on our own and there was nothing they could do to help. Being laid off is one thing, but having the Human Resources Director tell us they did not intend to pay any of our sick or personal days was a slap in the face and very unprofessional. I had intended to work until Saturday, which was my last scheduled day. Since they were not paying my sick days, I called off my last 3 days so I could at least receive payment for 3 sick days. Hyatt's slogan is, "We care for people so they can be their best." They showed their true colors, and I would never work for Hyatt or stay at any of their properties. A few clarifications. I am not trying to cause a riot. I am being paid only my accrued vacation. As some have mentioned, New York does not require sick days to be paid, so I have come to terms with that. This was just my experience. I am not encouraging or discouraging anyone about Hyatt. Do not let this post alone determine whether you stay with the company. This was me venting. For the people who private messaged me asking if I am okay. Thank you. I will be all right. Good night, everyone. Story 30. It is not that I lost a job. The problem is that it is now nearly impossible for me to find one. Story 31. My wife and I both worked at major casinos on the Las Vegas Strip. We are now both out of work because all casinos in Las Vegas are closed. Only security staff and a few other essential positions remain employed. Casinos are the largest employers in the state of Nevada. I am sure this will devastate the local economy. Story 32. I didn't lose my job, but I was in the middle of searching for a new one. Now it is becoming almost impossible to find work, and I am not eligible for employment insurance. Story 33. Washington State does not require paid time off to be paid out, so it is cheaper for employers to fire employees, eliminate their accrued paid time off, and then rehire them later than to retain them. I have not been let go yet, but all 9 people who work for me, including one person who had 12 weeks of accrued paid time off and received nothing, have been let go. Our office in California has allowed employees to take paid time off for years because California requires unused paid time off to be paid out, creating a liability on the books. The laws may not seem very different on paper, but in practice they are. Story 34. I was supposed to see my doctor yesterday, hoping to be cleared to return to work. I had rotator cuff surgery 2 months ago. The appointment was canceled, so I cannot return without the paperwork. This is very frustrating because I have $100 to my name. Story 35. Last hired, first fired. The owner likes me, but she could not keep us all on, so it was only fair. My side gig is dog walking, which is very slow because no one is leaving their houses these days. God bless the woman whose dogs I walk every day. Story 36. I was working hourly for a company that produces shows in Las Vegas. When I read the news that all the shows were stopping, we were told we were out of work starting Monday until further notice. I was the only person in my family with income. I have a small business, but with everyone out of work, I do not know what will happen. I have been broke before, but this is different. Story 37. My girlfriend works for Marriott and lost her job. They told her they will call when they need staff again. She tried to apply for unemployment benefits but was denied because Marriott lists her as an employee who works 0 hours. For the time being, I am taking over her financial responsibilities. Story 38. I had been unemployed for over 2 months, with countless applications and rejections. I finally landed a job at a record storage facility with good hours and pay. Technically, it was a casual position, but it was essentially full-time, and there had been work for me for over a year. The company whose records I was to care for canceled the contract, and I was out of work after 5.5 days. Story 39. My wife and I both work in the restaurant industry. We were both laid off without pay and indefinitely. She is a type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic, and we have 2 young children. We have no idea what to do. The cost of insulin and supplies was already overwhelming. The thought of not being able to get her insulin is horrifying. Thank you so much for the kind words and advice. We are applying for Medicaid and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program tomorrow, and I will look into what the insulin and pump supply manufacturers can do to help. We expected to work the last couple of days, but the employer decided to close the doors, which I cannot blame. It is hard not being able to go out to find a job. A couple of generous Reddit users will send us a small amount via Venmo to get by, and we are beyond thankful. Stay safe, wash your hands, and stay home if you can. Story 40. I actually gained a job because of this. My local Walmart had a lot of people quit due to the sudden high demand for everything. Story 41. I had been unemployed for nearly 2 years because of medical problems. I finally got cleared to return to work. It was a long, hard-fought road. I applied, interviewed, and did very well. They offered me the job on the spot, and I accepted. 2 days later, they rescinded the offer. The industry is being crushed. The timing is so terrible it hurts. Story 42. I have just read that 18% of United States workers have lost jobs or work hours. Story 43. I am self-employed, so I have not technically lost my job. However, all my clients have canceled because I am a tailor and fewer people need new clothes while everyone is isolating at home. I was even in the middle of making a client's wedding dress when she left the country without telling me, and I am not going to be paid. I hope this situation passes soon. Story 44. I worked for a company that did environmental work with concerts and musicians. I had just started and was excited to begin what I thought was my dream job. I was laid off because of the coronavirus pandemic. Job hunting during the quarantine is really difficult, and I would like to use my environmental science degree for something useful. Story 45. I work in a hotel. Last week our occupancy dropped to the 20% range, and most frontline duties were taken over by upper management. Our line staff were laid off or had shifts reduced to 1 or 2. This week our occupancy fell to less than 10%. Right after hotel chief executive officers met with Trump and announced they were shutting hotels down, my company called and laid off the sales staff, the chef, the banquets manager, and others. That was when I was laid off. My manager said he thought they would close the hotel the following week and lay off everyone else. They did not lay off anyone in the corporate office. The company favors nepotism, so the corporate photographer and the newsletter writer kept their jobs. I understand we cannot run empty hotels, but layoffs should have been more fairly distributed. My boss felt so bad about laying me off that he gave me a bag filled with toilet paper as a parting gift. I love that guy. Story 46. My last day at my previous job was Thursday. I started a new position on Friday. All of my former coworkers and friends were laid off on Sunday, and I cannot shake the guilt. Story 47. Coronavirus disease 2019 and the price of oil dropping like a rock made it a bad time to be a welder in Alberta. If it were only the virus, things would have been all right, but the company was hit by several problems in a short time. There was nothing to do but browse Reddit and YouTube, play Call of Duty, and walk the dog, while getting back some of the money I had paid to the government over the last few years. Story 48. My childcare center closed last Friday, and my wife's childcare center closed yesterday. The company plans to remain closed until April 26th. They are paying us for the first 2 weeks of the closure. Story 49. I did not lose my job because of this, but I had already been between jobs for several months. It has been a terrible experience trying to get interviews or to move hiring processes forward because of everything going on. It makes me worried about how much longer it will last. Story 50. I moved home recently and work in the restaurant and bar industry. All job opportunities have vanished, which is especially difficult because this is my area's high season. I am fortunate to have family support until things settle down. Please support and donate to charities helping people who will be struggling over the next few months. If you own a bar or restaurant and cannot afford to pay time off, lay off your employees so they can collect unemployment. Hire them back when business reopens. Story 51. I work for a ski resort in Colorado. Almost all employees have been laid off and are now stranded in the ski town with few employment opportunities. Many have no way to get home because of their desperate financial situation. Story 52. I own an escape room. We incurred a loss this week because we issued refunds for cancellations and had no new bookings. We were just coming out of a rough patch and had finally started making a profit before this happened. My business bank account is almost depleted. I do not think the business will survive. Story 53. It is not me but my father. He works in the exhibition industry, setting up stands for shows, events, and conferences. With bans on public gatherings, he is out of work indefinitely. He was the sole earner in our household, and we only have enough rent money for the next month. Scary times ahead. Story 54. My boyfriend and I work in the film industry. The entire industry in Vancouver has been shut down, and we are not being told when productions will resume. I showed up to work on the 13th, was told to go home, and have not been back since. I am preparing myself for 2 to 3 months before I can even consider returning to work. Story 55. I was promoted on Monday. On Tuesday, I received an email saying the business had been shut down until further notice. Story 56. My mother and I lost both of our jobs at roughly the same time. We were in the process of looking for and buying a house, but now, with no income, we cannot proceed. We are also being evicted from the house we are renting because the landlords are refurbishing, and with the coronavirus circulating, it is not a good time to move. Story 57. I'm a nurse. I had a kidney transplant 7 months ago and returned to work 4 months later. I left work on Monday and have not been back since. A paycheck is not worth risking my best friend's gift. Edit. My first gold. Thank you, kind neighbors and friends. Please donate to charity instead. My wife, the real badass nurse because she is currently working the labor and delivery unit, and I love donating to animal charities. We do medical mission trips in Peru with the team at Support Our Smiles. Edit 2. It is worth mentioning I have not lost my job. Nurses and staff went to work for 3 days this week to clean, and now non-elective surgeries have been canceled. We will see what happens. It is a surgery center, and my bosses and the board, all doctors, have been beyond supportive throughout my transplant and now this pandemic. The blessing of having so many incredible people in my life fills me with gratitude and frees me from fear of the unknown. Reach out if you think I can help you. Story 58. To all original posters in this thread, if you are desperate for income, try your local grocery stores. Due to the influx of panic purchasing, many stores are hiring staff with the intent to get them trained and on the floor quickly. I know this position is not highly coveted, especially during these times, but it can be a source of income if unemployment benefits are insufficient. Story 59. I gave notice for a new job, but the new employer implemented a hiring freeze afterward. I am stuck in limbo. Story 60. Reading these responses is heartbreaking. I feel for everyone experiencing financial hardship and the emotional struggle that accompanies it. Story 61. I worked for a hospitality company as a sous chef at a school residence for international students. We emptied out the residence on Friday except for 6 students. We had a small dinner party on Saturday. We moved all the food we could from cold storage to other locations and donated what we could not move. Our boss cooked us a nice dinner that night. I applied to the local hospital this morning, hoping to get a position there. In Ontario, we have not been hit hard yet, but if that changes, I would rather be working and serving people who need help and supporting those who are helping than sitting at home. I am a 28-year-old, fairly healthy man who lives alone. My girlfriend is not too happy, but I prefer taking action rather than sitting around. I have slept on a sack of potatoes for a weekend event. It is better to do something than nothing. Story 62. I do web development and information technology management. My company makes fabric decor for events and festivals, the kinds of events that are not permitted right now. I have seen the company soar during my time there. January was our best month ever, with revenue more than 3 times what it was the month I was hired a few years earlier. We had twice as many requests for quotes on new projects in February as in December. We were breaking records left and right. Then everything was vaporized in the span of a couple of weeks as one festival after another was canceled and event organizers canceled their orders for our products. I was laid off Monday, along with the marketing agent, the sales manager, and several members of production. We were told that when things improve, we will be the first people called back. But that will be a while. The chief executive officer is hoping for May. I think July is more realistic. I have signed up for unemployment and I will be looking for work because you have to in order to collect benefits, and I have a healthy balance in my savings account. I will be okay for a few months, although I did just have to cancel or postpone a refinance on my house. I am scared and anxious, and I am grieving. I love my job. I enjoy the work. I am proud of what we do, and I like my coworkers and my team. Story 63. I am a bartender. I was not working Saturday or Sunday, but I was watching other places post on social media that they would be closing for the time being. On Monday, a few hours before I was scheduled to go in, the city declared that sit-in restaurants should only serve takeout and that bars should close, so I spent time with the owner packing up all the alcohol. Before, we were all laid off in order to start collecting employment insurance. I had been a regular there for years before I started working. I found it in its first week open, and it has been open almost as long as I have lived in this neighborhood. I am the longest tenured bartender now. It is really fucked up to think about the place potentially not coming back. Story 64. Is anyone concerned that the media and public seem overly relaxed or hopeful about these job losses? This whole crisis seems to be taken lightly. Story 65. We deliver vans to Amazon warehouses in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, and the District of Columbia area. I was nervous about continuing to travel from city to city and being crammed in a minivan with 6 other people on the way home. I stopped working on Tuesday, and today I feel sick. I have a sore throat, feel very tired, and am sneezing. I hope it is just allergies. Story 66. I am about to lose the job I hate, but I do not hate it as much today. Story 67. My girlfriend is a private chef. She caters all sorts of events, but her bread and butter is weddings, private functions, and corporate events and so on. Our country is not that badly affected yet, so she has 2 events this weekend, but after that there is absolutely nothing. Story 68. I scored my dream job last May, and after 3 months I was let go because of delays in a project I was directly involved in. My girlfriend and I had just moved in together, and my monthly living costs were based on the higher salary from the job I had lost. After several months surviving on credit cards, job hunting, and picking up odd jobs to make ends meet, sometimes working 3 different jobs in a single day, I finally found a new company I was excited to work for. After weeks of interviewing, I started last week. On Friday, everyone was required to work from home, and I was the only one let go. To make it worse, my girlfriend works in hospitality and she is also out of work. This really sucks. Story 69. I work for a charter school, and I was very afraid this was the end for us. But the chief executive officer announced we will support the students remotely, run online classes, and everyone will be paid regardless of whether they can perform their duties. Teachers are still teaching, janitors are staying at home, and everyone is being paid. My respect for them increased a lot. Story 70. Chef, the restaurant closed because our menu is not takeout friendly. The owners have been very helpful with unemployment assistance. They also gave the staff any items that were not freezable, such as produce and other perishable goods. I am proud to work for them because of how they handled it. Story 71. I threw away a decent salary and a stable but mediocre life just over a year ago to try to achieve something worthwhile and interesting for myself. I enrolled in a one-year course in creative advertising that seemed compelling. I sold most of my worldly possessions to have enough cash to move to the opposite end of the country with my partner to begin my studies. I threw myself into the course. It was well connected with industry and I finished strongly with excellent prospects. I accepted the most prestigious offer, which was also the lowest paying, and began an internship at a world-leading agency. That was 6 weeks ago. My partner and I separated because we were growing apart, and on Monday I moved my belongings into a terrible flat with unpleasant housemates. The next day, my company let go of all their temporary and contract staff. My career is gone, and I'm all alone in a dirty house with no friends. At least I have the internet and Reddit. Story 72. I worked in sales trying to get businesses to send employees to public workshops at hotels. We typically had 30 to 60 people at each workshop. Due to the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic, business slowed. Yesterday they laid off 20 people and kept only the top 5 salespeople. They said they will rehire us when business resumes. Story 73. I am a server at a local Asian restaurant in the South, so you can imagine how it has been. Ever since the virus started, business has been dead. I did not make more than $50 on a 9-hour shift this past month, and I have worked plenty. Finally, we had one day when we had fewer than 5 tables who were regulars, and we decided we could not stay open anymore. I tried applying to a few other restaurants, one right next to my current job, so I could hopefully work both. But they had to cancel my interview because they were not making enough money to hire. It was really hard for the owner to close, and he hated how much people made assumptions about the restaurant because it served Asian food. We were talking a few days before we closed. He asked me why we were not getting customers, and I said I thought it was because of the virus and because we were an Asian restaurant. It was funny to hear my quiet, misty-eyed Chinese boss stare out the window and say, "That's fucked. I did not lose my job, but I am temporarily laid off until further notice." I also just remembered that all of our kitchen staff are undocumented immigrants or people trying to obtain citizenship. They have no way to make money and cannot sign up for benefits. We are all really worried about them. Story 74. I am a security guard at a nightclub that is currently closed. I have a really great boss. He has given all his employees time off while continuing to pay them because he is extremely wealthy and looks after everyone. Everyone is guaranteed their old position when we return. Thanks, Gary, you're an absolute legend. Why Platinum? Story 75. I do camera work, mostly reality television. Our entire industry is shut down. I had just finished filming Deadliest Catch and returned to real life to sleep. I worked 40-hour days, often with 2-hour naps, with no real schedule, just go, so recovery takes a bit after that series, and I would climb for a while. Then everything I had lined up and everything my friends were working on disappeared almost overnight. Whenever you can, please turn the television to the Discovery Channel so that when this all blows over I can get back to frolicking in Alaska or the jungles. As a side note, I finally had time to get treated for the parasite I picked up in Belize while filming Naked and Afraid. I named it Rupert and thought I had killed it while climbing, but I was wrong. Goodbye, Rupert. You will be missed. Story 76. I am a waiter. I have not lost my job, but I will lose 25% of my hours next week. I expect it to get worse. We have been told nothing by head office about what will happen if there is a lockdown. Because I am paid hourly, the assumption is that I will not be paid. The Prime Minister was asked today what will happen to staff who lose hours or who are made redundant. He said he is looking after companies and hopes they will do the same for their workers. Very reassuring. Story 77. My Facebook feed is filled with friends who work in the service industry, asking for help with basic necessities. Story 78. We sold our house, packed our things, took our 2 young daughters, and moved to the Bay Area in California for my husband's new job in San Francisco. That was January 25th of this year. He lost his job the Monday the shelter-in-place order was announced. We left our families, friends, and home for this job. We do not know what we are going to do. Fortunately, we have savings from selling our house while he looks for work. We just do not know who, if anyone, will be hiring soon. I want to buy a school bus, convert it to a recreational vehicle, and live in the mountains. I have not yet convinced my husband and our daughters to go along with that plan. Story 79. I am a substitute teacher. I had several substitute teaching assignments lined up for the next month, but all were canceled. I do not know if the school year will even be completed. I had to apply for unemployment because I have no way to make a living if the school year ends. Story 80. I lost my job this morning. I had been writing software for airlines. The first thing I saw in my calendar was a meeting with human resources. Half an hour later, almost everyone I worked with and I were made redundant. We had all seen the issues, but we were not expecting such a sudden cut to a skeleton staff. I hope it is enough to keep everything running for the sake of the colleagues who remain. Story 81. I looked for a job after college for a year. I finally took a job at a grocery chain doing online orders, but I hated it. About a year ago, I was hired into a position where I could use my degree. I was happy and well paid, and I was able to pay my rent and my girlfriend's rent while she was in school. I was laid off 2 days ago with no indication of whether I will have a job when this is over, and I am trying to figure out how I will support us. Story 82. I am a line cook in Las Vegas, Nevada. My chef called me on Saturday and told me that Sunday would be my last day of service until further notice. The entire casino industry has been forced to close until further notice. Many of my brothers and sisters in the hospitality industry are hurting right now. I do not know what to do because, honestly, no one is hiring. Grocery stores are hiring, but everyone has the same idea of applying to them. Now we have a 30-day quarantine in our state, and the state has not moved to freeze rent and mortgage payments for the time being. I have filed for unemployment, and at this point, all I can do is hope that this will fix itself in the next 3 weeks. As a cook, I always thought I would never be out of a job. People always need to eat. It has been an eye-opening experience for me. I know no one may read this, but I have to get it off my chest. To all fellow cooks, bartenders, dishwashers, servers, and others, keep your heads up. We will get through this. 86. The restaurant industry. Story 83. I am a stripper, which is a pretty big no-go while people are social distancing. All the bars in my state closed on Tuesday, and that same day I went to a hiring event at the grocery store near me and walked out with a job. I was scared because, as a stripper, I do not qualify for unemployment. My boyfriend also works in the service industry, and his hours are being cut. I also got a job with the census that was supposed to start on the 24th, but that was postponed. Overall, I am excited to work at the grocery store. I had been looking for a part-time job anyway before this all started, and maybe it will be a good way to transition out of stripping. Story 84. I am a live theater sound professional in New York City. I worked full-time at a show called Sleep No More for 7 years. On Friday, March 6th, they laid off at least half of the staff but promised our jobs were safe and that we were not closing. We canceled a lot of bands that normally play after the show. Then, on Thursday, March 12th, the city announced Broadway would close, and management decided that night would be the final show. The performers decided they would be more comfortable without an audience because the show is immersive, intimate, and involves a lot of contact. We had a final party, had some drinks, and said goodbye. The next day, we were informed the show would be closed until April 12th, when Broadway would reopen. Then, on Sunday, March 15th, we were informed that the entire staff had been terminated. I'm praying my landlord will give me some leeway, but I lost all of my income. I live paycheck to paycheck with no savings. I'm scared. I am already on day 6 of quarantine. Story 85. My mother works in an office for a company that ships party products. Because of the crisis caused by the virus, no one is ordering anything and the business has come to a complete stop. She has been told that they will call her if they need her, and I am really worried about how long she will be laid off. The worst part is that she thinks she will be called back in about a week, but my father and I do not want to tell her what might actually happen because we do not want to break her heart. It is a tough reality we are facing. Story 86. I work for an eye doctor. We had a very slow couple of months after Christmas and had already reduced our hours. The doctor canceled all appointments and has essentially closed the practice. She said she has business interruption insurance and originally thought it would cover everyone. But after several days of back and forth with the insurer, it is still unclear whether we will be covered and paid. If we are not covered, she will lay us all off and we must apply for unemployment benefits. I am hoping to know as soon as possible so I can file for benefits. I also filed for my tax refund 5 weeks ago and it still has not arrived. So I am very concerned, but I know there is nothing I can do. I hope I will be called back to my job after this, but I cannot be sure. Story 87. I lost my job in China and moved back home, but things went badly. I completed my quarantine, and now no one is hiring. My husband and I are both without jobs. Story 88. I am a tour guide. We make most of our money between March and June because of traveling school groups. All March and April shifts have been canceled. I am hoping to work in May. When tours slow down in June, I usually work at a summer camp, but there is some uncertainty there as well. Story 89. I was in the middle of simulator training at the airline when I was told to go home. Now I am home. My previous job was a contract position and would likely not be a good option even if they rehired me, so I am looking for alternatives. Story 90. I am a server in New York City. Restaurants are shut down except for takeout and deliveries. I have been out of work for about a week. My last paycheck posted today via direct deposit. It was about $300 because I only worked a few days. I applied for unemployment benefits, but the website keeps crashing because of heavy traffic. There is nothing anyone can do right now, to be honest. Thankfully, I live with my family, 2 of whom are pharmacy technicians, so it is not that bad. The future is still uncertain, and that uncertainty is causing some anxiety, but I have to keep moving forward and do what I can. Story 91. My fiancé is a freelance sound engineer. He's not going to be working for the foreseeable future. Most of the big audiovisual companies in our city have shut up shop. Thankfully, it looks like my job in software is secure for now, but we're going to move to a smaller place and do some serious belt tightening. Story 92. I'm in Hawaii with my brother. We're both in the service industry and are out of work now. We're heading back to the mainland next week. Story 93. I worked as a social media manager for a retail store. They let me go because the store was not making enough sales to justify paying me. They also emphasized it was not because of the coronavirus or the bushfires, even though both severely reduced our sales. I cannot find a new job because few employers are hiring. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.